It's Friday, which means it's fight day. Welcome back to IAYTD and welcome to the beginning of Season 2 of Comic Fights. Today we have a really interesting one, Vision versus Martian Manhunter. So let's start with Martian Manhunter. We're looking at pre-52 Martian Manhunter because there's just so much there to look at. So let's start with what he is physically able to do. His most notable attribute is his ability to shapeshift. And this means either to look like someone, he can become invisible, he can change his size, so he can become gigantic, he can become super small, he can become elastic, so he can change all sorts of things in terms of his appearance and size. He can also change his density, which means he can become super dense and nearly indestructible. He can also become intangible, meaning that things can pass right through him. If something does manage to hurt him, he can actually regenerate a massive amount. So you can cut off an arm, he regrows. He's regrown from being melted, being just utterly destroyed. He can regrow himself. He can also fly. He's incredibly strong, like he's going one-on-one with Superman before. He can shoot laser beams out of his eyes. He can do all sorts of things. His power set is immense. But one of his strongest abilities, in the pre-52 world, he is one of the strongest telepaths in that universe, which means he can read minds, control minds, deliver massive attacks telepathically. He can do a lot. He's a very powerful telepath. Even though he has all these powers, he also has a really massive weakness, and that is fire. Fire terrifies him because fire can basically negate a lot of his abilities. That it can deal permanent damage, it can deal life-threatening damage to him. So fire, big no-no for Martian Manhunter. Now let's spin it and let's talk about the Vision. The Vision is an android, and his mechanical body allows him to do a lot of things that are very similar to Martian Manhunter. So he can fly, he can change his density, so he can become also intangible, which means he can become semi-tangible inside of someone and hurt them, kill them, etc. He can also become just as dense and become nearly indestructible. The Vision is made of individual nanites, which means that is kind of what controls his density. He can be destroyed, and as long as one nanite survives, each one contains his artificial intelligence, which means it can rebuild into a completely new Vision. He can generate holograms so he can appear as different people, become invisible, a lot of things that Martian Manhunter can also do. He can ramp up his audio sensitivity to hear things that are otherwise unperceivable. And since he's an android, he never gets tired. He's immensely powerful in terms of strength. He is just a being of destruction. While Martian Manhunter can shoot lasers, Vision has a jewel that absorbs solar energy and then can shoot it out at like 30,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So now the question, when putting these two against each other, is does the Vision's energy blast of 30,000 degrees equal to the damage that fire would do? At that sort of temperature, is that equivalent? That would his jewel do irreparable damage to Martian Manhunter? The other question is, Martian Manhunter has incredible telepathy skills, but is Vision, whose mind is basically human, is his mind susceptible to the telepathy of Martian Manhunter? So I want you to debate those things. Where do you think they fall in those two areas in terms of, is an AI actually a mind that can be controlled, and is that amount of heat equivalent to fire? And based on your answers, who would win this fight? So next week, what's going to happen is I'm going to give you my thoughts, backed up by some of your thoughts. So put out really good comments. Think about the different scenarios, what might impact this, and I'm going to shout out the best ones. So next week, before we get to the new match, I'm going to give you my answers and some feedback about this fight. So you have a week, good luck, and we'll see you next week on Comic Fights.